With 24 hours to go, and the Drudge headline says it all. It looks like the GOP may take the Senate, and in the very latest polling, momentum is surging from Atlanta to Anchorage. Here are the numbers from Real Clear Politics. We highlighted the 10 most interesting Senate races. Remember, Republicans are widely believed to pick up Democrat seats in West Virginia, South Dakota, and Montana. That means, given these remaining 10 seats, Republicans need just a net of 3. Net of 3. We're going to start in the Northeast, head south, and then out west, where things got interesting this morning. So we're going to start off with New Hampshire. Bob, I want to start with you because this has been the one that's gone back and forth and back and forth. Scott Brown and Jeanne Shaheen, the latest, leaning towards Jeanne Shaheen a little bit, but Politico just recently, maybe like an hour ago, called it a head neck-to-neck.
Yeah, but New Hampshire's a state that generally tends to return senators for a second term. 1, 2, Brown has got a problem that always been an underlying problem, which is he's not from the state. He came into the state. He claims he's from the state. I think Shaheen is, of all the Democrats, in pretty good shape. I think she'll win that, win it by a margin of 2.
Anyone else? Anyone disagree with that?
I disagree only because of things that I've heard about from people on the ground that have been with him, that he is a great campaigner on the ground, something that doesn't necessarily come across in the polls. And I also thought it was interesting this weekend when Hillary Clinton went there and somebody was complaining about Scott Brown being a carpetbagger, and she nodded her head along as if she hadn't done the same thing in New York City. It's not like this is unprecedented. And also, if you think about that debate last week where the moderator messed up and then had to apologize to Scott Brown later, I think that we don't know how social media factors in. An apology like that you wouldn't typically see, just like you don't see the corrections in the newspaper after a bad story runs. But with social media, that could be changing some of these races in one like this.
Scott Brown got Candy Crowley'd. Didn't you call it a verb?
Yeah,
didn't you
now a verb, Crowley'd.
You got Crowley'd.
It sounds worse than it really is.
New Hampshire, want to move on?
Well, you can move on. I've got nothing.
I like him. I'm going for him. I think he's going to beat Shaheen. I think he's got the momentum. I'm excited about it.
But that would be amazing if he does win. I mean,
that'll tell the tale for the
what
night.
Bob said. Maybe.
We're going to try and hit on the ones that are really hotly contested, like North Carolina, where Tom Tillis and Kay Hagan have gone back and forth. Right now, again, Northeast, moving our way down the East Coast. The 2 seats that are probably the most, I guess, the best chance for Democrats to pick up would be New Hampshire, North Carolina. Bob, Tillis, Hagan, thoughts?
Well, it's a hold, not a pickup for the Democrats. Hagan has run consistently ahead of Tillis. Her ground game is very, very good. Tillis has made a few mistakes. I think that Hagan, who was the most vulnerable of all the all the Democrats, rather, as we started this election year, may well turn out to be the one that who perseveres.
Greg, your thoughts on this one?
No. No, I mean, I'm more interested, I guess, I'm not so much interested in the races as what's going to happen after. The media is already in gear. They're talking about if the Republicans gain control, that rather than change the direction of the country, they should change the direction of their party. Always. So if you win, you must preserve the downward spiral that we're experiencing now. And if you look at the language, the media is saying, shouldn't you now be, I was watching the news this morning at the gym, working out, stair climber, 1 hour. They said, the media is saying, shouldn't they work with the president, which is code for give in? So if it's amazing. So if the Democrats win, Obama gets a mandate. If the Republicans win, Obama gets a mandate.
Yeah.
All right. North Carolina, I want to move a little quicker through some of these states that are a little bit more obvious. North Carolina, KG?
North Carolina, who do we have there?
We had Tom Tillis.
Oh, Tom Tillis, we're still on them. Yes, Tom Tillis, I think, because he's had late-breaking momentum, definitely. I would like to see if somebody was an incumbent, they should be leading by more and not losing ground at the end. And that is kind of more,
it's not that they like Tom Tillis so much, they don't like Kay Hagan.
I think it's more vote against her than it is per se.
Georgia, we're going to go, we'll scroll the picture, the poll in Georgia. David Perdue looks like he will win after a runoff. That will be in January, assuming neither candidate gets 50%. That's leaning heavily towards Purdue if it gets to the runoff. Kentucky, Mitch McConnell, can we just move on? Mitch McConnell has a wide margin.
I do think that we should say something about that, though, that the major races against the the majority leader of the Senate, whether it was Daschle, then Harry Reid's race was a tough one, and this one here in Kentucky. I would say both Reid and McConnell showed that you have to have a really good candidate to try to bump those guys off. They put a ton of money into it, the Democrats did, but it was a waste of time.
Okay. We move on to Louisiana, where Cassidy and Mary Landrieu, again, another one where if one one candidate doesn't get 50% of the vote, it will go to a runoff. That will be also, Greg, you want to weigh in on this? Rob Manis, I believe, Rob Manis, I'm sure I have his name right, is going to have around 6 or 7% of the vote. That may change things. It will also help Cassidy in that runoff. If he drops out, they'll take the top two.
Well, I find that interesting. Again, I would rather talk about President Obama today, who spoke to a quarter-full arena in was it Philadelphia? It was at Temple. It wasn't at the Sixers arena. So basically, it's worse than the media is letting on. That a quarter full of a college arena is pretty impressive. Maybe next week he can speak at a Curves gym and get an entire spin class.
I wonder he's in about this one. Is it, Bob, if it does go to a runoff, even though President Obama has not gone to campaign for her, in a runoff, do you think that changes and that he would go down there?
Yeah, because the black population, voting population is high, and I think he would probably. I mean, it's going to be a very difficult race for either one of those. I mean, I've got this race, this whole thing now 50-50 with the Republicans at 50, with 3 races really to decide: Georgia and Louisiana. They may go to a runoff, and in Kansas. So,
but who are you picking?
Well, I mean, I'll tell you at the end where I'm picking. But I just, one thing I want to say. Let's keep this in mind also. This is not a pro-Republican vote going on here. This is an anti-Obama, anti-Democratic vote.
Disagree.
We've seen that.
I disagree.
I don't think the Republicans have given a single reason.
I think they've had superior candidates. Candidate quality has been absolutely key. And remember, I was telling you in the green room, the Republicans have not been able to pick off more than 2 incumbents since 1980, and now we're talking in this conversation here about at least maybe 4 to 7.
Yeah, but
that's pretty remarkable.
What I'm saying is there's not a reason that they've given to elected Republicans. That's my point.
Quick thing about
the reason is the Democrats suck.
That's what
That's a good reason.
Finish saying.
Here's an example of that. Landrieu hurting herself with her comments were very divisive. I don't think the right tone whatsoever to be calling Southerners like that. Racist
and sexist.
She didn't call them racist. Come on.
She said it's become increasingly.
That is just flat wrong.
Bob, it's not clear. A lot of people are saying what she said was
you could if you want to interpret that, but don't say that about her. I know her very well. She would never say that.
Let's go through these very quickly.
She didn't say racist.
No. The point was she was making, she was talking about a racist past, and then she brought it into the present by saying President Obama had problems in this area. So she talked about the past, and then she pulled it into the present.
She said it's become increasingly difficult because of those issues.
That's what
My point is, she could just run her own record. She was successful. She was well liked. She had every advantage. That move, whether she meant it that way or not, did hurt her.
Let me do this because we have these loaded in order. We'll go through these very quickly. Arkansas Senate, Tom Cotton with a wide lead. We'll move past that one. Greg is going to talk about Iowa in the next block. We're going to get to that in just a minute. KG, someone mentioned Kansas. Dana, Kansas, Senate, Roberts versus Orman. Orman is running as an independent, but any question that this guy would caucus with the Democrats?
Well, I don't know him. Okay, so it seems like the people of Kansas don't know him, but they really talk about a protest vote. It is amazing that you would talk about Kansas as a toss-up, but it really is a jump ball, right, Bob? I mean, this one we don't know.
Yeah, but I'll say this. Who's he going to caucus with? I mean, the one advantage of having the White House is you can give a lot of goodies out to people. So I think the pressure on him to caucus with the Democrats will be very, very strong. And let's keep in mind the next 2 years from now, the Democrats have a very favorable landscape for the Senate.
All right,
what about Orman's comments about the GOP clown car? I don't like that.
Orman over the weekend calling Bob Dole a clown.
Clown car, and then apologizing. Sometimes sorry isn't good enough.
I think Kansas should just be careful because in some ways, who you don't know they don't know who he is, and they might not like the current guy that they have, but between the two, I think that Roberts probably wins by just a hair.
Very good. This one's very interesting. We have a little bit more news today. Cory Gardner and Mark Udall in Colorado. Dana, you come from Colorado. Cory Gardner has about a 2.5-point lead right now.
He's been characterized as having the best campaign. He's happy. He's optimistic. He knows he left a really safe seat. He could have won re-election in Congress quite easily, but he decided to take this on. And hopefully, I think his campaign will be a model for future ones about how to show a optimistic agenda for the Republican Party for constructive change.
Especially in Colorado.
Let's keep in mind this is an all-mail campaign, which is the first time we've seen this, a mail-in campaign. And where the mail has come from has been fairly strong for the Republicans, although late voting has come in from the Boulder area and from Denver, but it'll be a close race. But I think Udall is looking at an uphill race of 2 points or better.
Right, and he's the guy who also had someone walk out, a big donor walk out of a campaign rally yesterday saying, big Democrat donor saying, this is all he's got. This is all you've got. All you talk about is his issue of abortion, right? Remember, they were...
Yeah, but all that's true.
Also, can we point out that in Colorado, they are releasing the numbers as they come in, and Colorado's so far about 48 to 42% skewed to the GOP.
I would ask Bob one question on that one, though, because somebody called it this weekend that Udall's campaign is an example of consultant malpractice, that they didn't give him enough to be able to run on and that he wasn't able to turn it around. Do you think there'll be some soul searching on the consultant class about how to turn this around for 2016?
Yeah, I think that whenever you get into a single issue, I don't care how popular it may be for your base, it's something that limits you in a whole lot of ways. And he was running against a good candidate. I mean, that's I'm not willing to throw this in. Colorado has had a strange. Remember the last time we were out there, it was Bennett was going to be beat by what's his name, the Tea Party guy, and it turns out Bennett won. So I don't know about Colorado. It's a strange state, but
remember
so right now I put it 50-50.
That guy you're talking about is Buck, Ken Buck, and
yeah.
he actually was going to run for Senate when Cory Gardner and he worked out a deal. Buck ended up running for Congress and Cory Gardner running for Senate. That shows me that the Colorado Republican Party was really smart and had some foresight.
One final thought. If home team matters at all, this is the GOP's home team. 7 of these 10 contested states right here were won by Mitt Romney in the 2012 election. So keep an eye on it.
So what to Bob's point is that in 2016, the opposite is true for Republicans. You have incumbent Republicans who are going to have to defend themselves in states that President Obama won.
You also have some popular Democratic governors running in these states, too. So.
Right. Okay. So how big is tomorrow? It depends on who you ask. Here are Mitt Romney and Barack Obama on the importance of the 2014 midterm elections. First, Mr. Romney.
This is really the last chance for America to pass judgment on the Obama administration and on its policies. The president himself said he's not on the ballot, but his policies are. That includes hesitancy and weakness abroad, which has led to a certain degree to the rise of ISIS. It also includes the violation of the most fundamental promise of Obamacare to let people keep their doctor and their insurance if they wanted to keep it. It's a policy also of basic amnesty for those that come to the country illegally. I think that's where we know where the president's going to head as soon as the election is over.
And now, according to Politico, the president said, according to Politico, the administration officials tell us that Obama's political and policy teams are planning a big counterattack if the Republicans win the Senate.
But you listened to Romney. Romney had absolutely nothing to say about what the Republicans were going to do.
Well, it sounds like Romney said change is good. Things are going to progress.
Healthcare
it sounds like Obama said if the Republicans win, all bets are off on the board.
Well, he said they would launch a serious counterattack. Remember, President Obama feels more comfortable with political enemies and going after political enemies than actual enemies. If we told him that ISIS was funding the Republican Party, he would nuke them. But he uses such strong language when it comes to his American adversaries as opposed to the others. I think the issue that Romney's talking about is this is really an important time because we live in a precarious situation where we need stable, consistent, forceful leadership, and we don't have it. So we need to kick the grad schools out and bring in the adults. And the most important step is to refund and reinvigorate our defense, because we got to stop navel gazing, start Navy building. The Army's cutting 12 brigades. That's 80,000 troops. Navy's retiring 11 cruisers. Air Force 550 planes. The message here is the city on the hill has turned out its lights. ISIS knows that. Putin knows us. We need to wake up. Turn the lights back on.
The mines are antique and those cruisers could do nothing.
KG, last final thought on the two different...
Yeah, and I think they just need to hit the economy. It's about defense, spending, building back up our military, not demonizing it, about doing something serious about health care and the economy. Jobs speak volume.
Be specific. Tell me exactly what you're talking about.
Well, I think they need to repeal Obamacare and rewrite it.
Well, that's not going to happen. We know that's not going to happen.
Well, because too many broken promises to the American people about you can keep your provider, all of that.
That's not going to happen.
All right, Bob, you asked me what I think they should do.
Oh, well, you should do. I'm saying what do you think is realistic?
I just agree with Mitt Romney on one point, in which he said that this is the last time that the American people will have a say on the Obama presidency. If you look at what happened in 2008, both Obama and Biden, and Hillary Clinton in the primary, they all ran against George W. Bush. So I think that's got to be on the mind of somebody like Hillary Clinton, that Obama will still be on the ballot in people's minds come 2016.
And the next 2 years, the media will spend its time repairing and rehabbing President Obama. He will come back as the what is it? The Phoenix Rising
out of the ashes.
It'll be a great story, and they're banking on it. Mark my words.
We got to leave it right there. Next.